Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now the very end of March of 2023, and I'm sure a lot of you, or at least a majority of you guys out there, got a chance to see Chapter 21 of The Mandalorian Season 3 by Jon and Dave that had, yes, a bit of a different tone in comparison to the past episodes. I would really like to hear what you guys have to say about that particular episode below in the comments. Fill me in below on all of that. And apart from that, we know that there's been a lot of issues going on still to this day involving the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, and we're going to be diving into exactly what Kennedy recently did to George Lucas. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, we are in a very interesting time right now because Star Wars is in a very delicate place, and Disney knows it. They know that they have to really focus on their home run series, which, by the way, is the Ahsoka Tano series that is set to debut by this fall. Per Rosario Dawson, she said that they are trying to get this thing out by the fall, and a very small chance even earlier than that. So you may or may not see it release in August, but you may very well see it releasing at the very end of September. You know, technically the fall there. Now, with that being, of course, put out there and said, what's really intriguing is exactly what's going on with George Lucas right now. Now, once again, we know that Kathleen Kennedy always backstabs George Lucas either directly or, you know, kind of in a quiet way where she does things behind his back a lot. But what's really interesting about this is exactly what she really actually went out of her way to do. Number one, what she actually did, and number two, what she's trying to attempt to do by convincing Disney executives and more. Now, with Kathleen Kennedy now in more trouble with Disney after making very bad decisions for both the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, it's noted that behind the scenes, Kennedy is starting up more drama related to George Lucas that is only making the situation worse for both of those shows. Kennedy recently made a big proposal to Disney executives to fire George Lucas from all upcoming Star Wars projects, including himself as an advisor for Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte by restricting him from the set. Just recently, Kennedy called for an action to be made by Disney to no longer involve George in any upcoming Star Wars shows or movies and actually got him restricted from Acolyte and Skeleton Crew sets. Kennedy got one part of her wish to come true now, where Lucas is no longer allowed to be on the set of both Acolyte and Skeleton Crew since he was trying to prevent some retcons that she was creating toward the prequels. Even though Jon and Dave are involved, Lucas is no longer allowed to even step foot near those sets. This is something that Lucas did not take lightly and was very offended over the fact that Kennedy went that far to keep him away from talking with the cast and the crew. So let me stop right here for 1 second. Now, this is the only thing that Kathleen Kennedy, you know, pretty much got her way with, is that she was able to convince Disney to keep him off of the set. And given that, yes, Kennedy has full control for the most part over Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte, I mean, those two shows are heavily embedded in her contract, you know, in isolation away from Jon and Dave, you know, working on roughly 40% of those shows. She has the ability to do whatever she wants to do for the sets and for the production of both Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. The thing that I don't like about this is that what is her true reasoning behind restricting George from both of those shows' sets? Obviously, as we stated before in the past, it has a lot to do with the fact that both shows are going to have a lot of retcons toward the prequels. For the Acolyte, it's going to have a lot to do with flash forwards, and for Skeleton Crew, it's going to have a lot to do with flashbacks. Very similar to how, you know, we get flashbacks in Mando and Book of Boba, stuff like that. And in this scenario, for Skeleton Crew, it's going to have a lot of Order 66 flashbacks, a lot of flashbacks related to Revenge of the Sith, or even The Phantom Menace, or Attack of the Clones, whatever have you. I think at the end of the day, Kathleen Kennedy feels very, very much defensive over George Lucas talking to the cast and the crew, kind of giving them a different view of Star Wars and a different style of acting and stuff around those lines. So even though Kathleen Kennedy is not getting her way of getting George Lucas fired, that's not even going to happen, so don't even worry about that. But what she did achieve is that she got him completely restricted from even visiting near the sets of both Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. She doesn't even want him talking to the cast. That's how much she doesn't want any kind of George Lucas influence on her shows at all. So on to the next big thing here, alright, that gets even all the more involved, is that Kennedy, at no surprise, is still pushing for Lucas to get fired. However, Disney executives are ignoring Kennedy's request, as they know George's vision is the key to success with the brand, with the help of John and Dave, as well as new creators that will be hired very soon, that will actually work on different shows alongside both John and Dave. Now, with Lucas, of course, now restricted from those sets, Lucas can no longer actually spectate the making of these shows, which are still going through lots of issues on Disney's end, as they are panicking over the production of both installments, with many delays and setbacks still to come. Kennedy is overworked and stressed about getting these shows out on time. And there you have it. Here's another thing that's very much alarming, too, is that we have heard little to nothing about Skeleton Crew officially speaking from Disney directly. You guys may recall that we haven't really even gotten a release date or even a release date window for Skeleton Crew yet. And it's supposed to come out this year, mind you. And given that Rosario Dawson, at the very least, said Ahsoka is going to be aimed at coming out this fall, and if it's going to take up a fall slot, that would mean that Disney would want to get Skeleton Crew out by this summer, which would mean that they would have to really rush and move through post-production like crazy, to the point where it may come out as a big mess. So, I think it's very likely that either A, you're going to get this thing out in the summer, and it's going to be very out of order, it's going to feel very rushed, it may come out in August for all we know, or B, they're going to delay this thing until the very beginning of 2024, or in a very hopeful attempt at the extreme tail end of this year. I'm talking like December 28th or something like that, like at the very end of December. So there's a lot of different scenarios that they could go with, but regardless, if it does come out this year, it's going to feel rushed. There's no two ways about it. You know, this show is actually going through a lot of reshoots still. They're only getting somewhat started on post-production, and they have to get this thing out and done very soon. So anyways, the fact that she went this far to literally restrict George Lucas from visiting those sets is a real telltale sign that she's getting very defensive. She knows what's going on with the Disney executives and how they want her out by August. They're still moving forward with that. They really do want Dana Brunetti to become the new president of Lucasfilm. We've talked about this before in the past. If you guys want to go ahead and look up the past videos that we did, of course, we talked about how Dana is the top candidate right now, who took over David Heyman and Ron Howard, who are no longer on the list, by the way. So anyways, guys, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.